Hello, good morning. My thought for the day. Again, health. It really is the number one issue that seems to get brushed under the carpet so much. There's some really good responses to the last couple of videos that I've done in regards to health. But they still, no matter how good they are as a response, they tend to forget the most important issue. And that is, sadly, it is a lot of Americans that bring this to my attention. And that is that it's all very well to have 10,000 pesos, dollars that they say they put aside for eventual emergencies. But 500,000 pesos will go nowhere if you have a heart attack. It will only barely pay for a few days in hospital. And the point that I'm making is that it's all very well to plan for a possible sudden attack of a very serious affliction, an illness. But if you know that you have underlying problems with your health, I really do think you should think again about making this your home permanently, because it will end up being, maybe this is your reason. Maybe you don't want to die in some apartment stuck in New York or Philadelphia or wherever, and maybe London or Sydney as well. But the reality is that that is what you face. When you come to live in what they call a third world country, I like to call it a developing country. It's not quite, or certainly nowhere near, the level of achievement as that in the West. Yes, they have doctors, yes, they have some very fine surgeons, and they have also got some very good hospitals. But without the resources to pay for all of those things, not only to pay for the cost, you might pay between 1,500 and 2,000 pesos for a private room in a private hospital. But what about the medication? That can hit you because you can't buy it outside. It comes from their own dispensary. So hospitals here are run for profit. They're run and owned by private companies, or in most cases, families own these hospitals, and they're in it to make money. They're often doctors and surgeons themselves, and this is their way of making millions of dollars out of you and everybody else here in the Philippines. Because just because you don't pay your bill and you have to wait until you've paid it before they'll let you leave, there are laws that prevent that, but nobody adheres to them. The government can bring out a law, but it doesn't mean that the hospital will follow. It would be nice to think they do, but they don't always. And the thing is also, if you end up dying here, and you imagine your girlfriend or your wife here has to deal with the fact that they won't even release the body to you until the bill has been paid. The idea that somehow you, as a human being, when you die, your debts die with you. I'm sorry, that's not how it works here in the Philippines. They want their every ounce of blood from you. And unless you have unlimited resources, or limited resources, it's not a good idea to plan a long-term stay in the Philippines, I'm afraid. It's going to cost you dearly. And the other thing to remember is that, yes, you could have a stroke, but isn't that telling you that you may well indeed have another one soon afterwards? Because there's no guarantee that you have one stroke, that you don't also then have 2 strokes, or 3. And then finally, you die. Now, yes, it's a good idea to be near a hospital so that you can get treatment. But really, it's a bit like these families that say, Grandma has signed a thing saying, do not resuscitate. Because that's what really will happen here. If you don't want people to have to pay for you when you're gone, you're going to have to make sure that you provide sufficient money to pay for that last minute decision to allow you to go to hospital. That's why so many people here just die. It's a big ask, even for a Filipino family, to cough up the money for a sick relative who's ended up in hospital. Many families spend their whole life, if they come from a family that has got a lot of illness in it. You imagine they just get over paying for grandma, and then granddad has a fall, and they have to pay for him to go to hospital. And even in a public hospital, they still follow the same criteria, and that is that you have to be able to pay for it. Otherwise, you just get put in a ward, and basically only minimal care is given. Because if you can't pay for something, the government here, unfortunately, is not in a position to pay you for all of that cost. So the family ends up paying for it. But please reconsider your idea of coming here, unless you have millions and millions of dollars to come here and you've chosen to buy and build a beautiful home by the sea and live your days out in comfort and calm and peace overlooking a beautiful bay or a sandy beach. Unless you have $1 million behind you, there's no way it's a good idea to come here. And that's why so many Americans, especially Americans, because it's not me saying it, I just can't get over this point. It's not me picking on Americans, it's just purely a fact that so many end up having to leave. And that's sad, because we all have dreams to live in a beautiful place and live out our retirement in a peaceful surroundings with a beautiful family around us. And to have it cut short simply because they cannot afford to live here any longer, even if they have a pension. Because money is not an infinite amount that keeps reproducing itself. If you have a company overseas and therefore you're pumping money into the Philippines for your lifestyle, that's a different story. But you could end up in a condominium alone. Maybe your wife has gone away for a few days to see her family and you just die. You have a heart attack and you're stuck up there in a condominium. How do you deal with that? Or more importantly, how does the family deal with that in the absence of you now and the money that they would have had coming from your pension or resources locked up because you forgot or failed or didn't want to give your PIN numbers or access to that money for fear that it would be taken and used before you knew it. Especially, what happens if you get dementia and you can't sign for all of these things? Somebody else has to be trusted to do it. And it's all very well to say, oh, I trust my wife. But when you're not here, what happens? It's not just your wife, it's the family as well. So really, really reconsider whether you're just coming here for a holiday, and you can get maybe holiday insurance that will maybe cover some things. But again, when you're older and you're in your 60s and late 70s, mate, you've come here to die, and you just have to accept that paracetamol, Valium is available in a chemist, but it's not going to fix the problems that you've got long term. It might fix the stress and it might fix individual minor pain, but the main pain is you made the wrong choice. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Sorry to be so negative, but that's a reality. And it's a reality for English people, Australians, but more importantly, so many of the dreamers that come from America fall short because they haven't really considered it. These videos are here to trigger a thought They're not to knock any particular group. They are there to guide you into making a good and valid choice. If you're prepared to take the risk, good on you. But don't blame everybody else if you don't have enough to pay even for your entry to a hospital. Simply because you came here with bare minimum, maybe social security, and that was it. And that's the sad reality. So many expats from anywhere in the world just come here with their social security, or they come here with a nest egg and they spend it on building a home or buying fancy cars, and then they barely have enough money to return to where they came from. So give it real thought, and if you like this, give us a comment and a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye now.